Dirty Deeds of Jefferson Community College, 1988 through 1999. This is a continuation. This is part 2 of a 3-part video. The first one was called Crimes and Misdemeanors of Jeff Tech, 1984 through 1988. The first video covered the 4 years I worked as a security guard. This one starts with my promotion to evening coordinator. Overall, I worked at the college for 29 years. This video takes place under the college's second president. As I always point out, the college had some great employees. They wanted you to succeed. But when you look through the dark lens, you see a lot of horrible truth about the college. This video starts where the last one left off. The abusive culture continues. Racism, sexism, nepotism is just a way of life. How many of you applied for a job at the college? Some of you even got called for an interview, and then later you found out that somebody's brother, sister, mother, father got the job. You know, at one point, I think there was a family of 5 that eventually drew a paycheck from the college. So, I get promoted to evening coordinator. I always thought it sounded like a pimp. I'll coordinate your evenings for you. And in the end, I might have been right. Over the years, I had about 400 duties. My fingerprints were on everything. I made 1 million copies for instructors. I'm not exaggerating that. It was about 1 million copies. Sometimes I made 10,000 copies a week. If those copiers were giving off radiation, I should be dead by now. I answered the phone. I handled bomb threats. Sometimes I was shoveling snow. I worked with nonprofit groups, posted cancellations for teachers. I took payments, on and on and on and on. The celebration was short-lived. On a midnight shift, alone, my friend on security decided he couldn't take things anymore, and he ended his life. We were told that they used a shotgun from the police academy. One would think a gun safe would be the price you had to pay to have a police academy, but not us. We had a big metal cabinet with a flimsy chain on it and a cheap lock. Anybody could have gotten into it, especially if you're alone on midnight shift. You know, we had classes in that room. We had meetings in that room. We had kids camp in the summer in that room. Sometimes they forgot to lock it. Anybody could have gotten into it. Police academy was like that. One time I found a loaded handgun in the bathroom. It turned out it belonged to the police chief of a nearby community. You know, there's this statistic that a lot of people who failed the first time around never try it again, that they kind of, come to their senses or whatever you want to say. And I can't help but feel like if we just had a gun safe that night, maybe my friend could be alive today. His boss had been rather abusive to him. I can't help but he made a statement. He took the gun from downstairs and took it all the way upstairs into the security office. Now, there had been all these wild rumors. I won't tell them all to you. But one was that he was, say, failing a class and he wasn't going to get to graduate. Well, if that was true, he could have made a statement by going into that teacher's office and doing whatever he did. But he didn't. He could have went up to upper management's office because he wanted to apply for this one job, and they told him that he couldn't apply because he was a student, which made absolutely no sense. But he didn't do that either. He decided to do this in the security office where his boss had been particularly abusive to him over a period of time. My file cabinet happened to be in the back of that office, and it was covered with blood. Maintenance took it downstairs, hosed it off, and put my stuff back into the cabinet and gave it back to me. And I had to use that cabinet for 25 years, about 25 years. Every once in a while, you would clean out a drawer for something, and you'd find a small pocket of blood in the back. Nothing like having to see your friend's blood every once in a while for 25 years. I hope you're getting a picture of what it was like to work at this place. Also, I had the problem, that the local police is the one who handled it, and police academy worked by rotating police officers from different communities. And whenever the Steubenville police came, somebody would always tell the story about how somebody ended their life upstairs. And then they would go on break, and it was always a couple ghouls would come up and start looking over my head. Is that where it happened? Want to know what he was like and ask me questions about it. These ghouls were like, did you ever strike a match in front of somebody who really liked fire and their eyes got all glossy and they would start to smile? Well, that's what these people were like. And I had to put up with this at least twice a year without fail for about 25 years. I brought it up a couple times that, this isn't easy to have to go through this all the time, but nobody seemed to care about it. My friend was well-read, funny, very smart, clever. I can't help but feel if we would have just done something different, he might be alive today. I mean, if his boss was just a little less abusive, or he didn't have access to that stupid gun that night, or was given the other job he wanted at the college that he was way overqualified for, maybe things would be different. It was during this time period that we got some bomb threats. We got a lot of bomb threats. And our solution to it was not to tell you. At one particular time, we got a bomb threat where they actually gave a time that it was supposed to go off. And we wasn't supposed to be taking it seriously, but I went outside. I'm not an idiot. I was outside and happened to be security there, and there was maintenance there, and most of management for some reason decided to take a late lunch that day. And I don't think anybody who knew about the bomb threat was still actually in the building. And all I could think of was, if something does go off and somebody loses an arm or a leg, I just pictured the trial. I mean, can you imagine being on that jury and I'm saying like, no, we didn't take it seriously, and we didn't think there was any concern for anything, and no, we just all happened to be out of the building at the time, and okay, yeah, you're just going to give them the school, aren't you? I mean, honestly, what would you do? Later, we revamped the bomb threat procedure, and I'm flipping ahead to the end where my part was. I was like in 7 places at once. I was filling out a bomb threat form. I was calling management that they needed to come back to the school to evaluate it, passing out green vests and flashlights, possibly evacuating the building, but you couldn't use the alarms because it might set a bomb off. And all the while, not letting anybody leave the parking lot. Can you imagine that? All the parking lots around the building, and somehow we're going to keep like 400 or 500, 600 people on the premises. I mentioned this, and I swear one of the vice presidents, who had a doctorate degree, looked at me and said, "People are like sheep. They want to be led." I'm not kidding. This is how stupid these people were sometimes. Did I mention that oftentimes there was only 2 of us, like me and one security guard who was over 70? We hired a lot of senior citizen guards, which that's okay. But there was 2 of them, I think, that had like 7 heart attack-like events over a period of time. Thank goodness I never got another bomb threat during this time period. I still can hear the timbre in one of the full-time instructor's voice, who found out later after the fact and said, "We never had a chance. At least they could tell us about it and let us make our own decision." Yeah, that might have been nice for you, huh? I knew I was in trouble the one day that it was later in the evening and we were just kind of making conversation, and one of the guards says, "We had a bomb threat today." I'm thinking, now they're not telling me that we're having the bomb threats. It was just a circus. Working day to day at the college, it was like riding a roller coaster. You have fun going up to the top peak of it and you're all excited and things are going fantastic for you. And then all of a sudden you go down the other side, you hit rock bottom, and you throw your churro up all over your shoes. That's what it was like to work day to day at this place. It was in this time period. Now, don't hold me to this because I swear it feels like a dream. Didn't we try a second levy? A levy on top of the other levy, so you'd be paying two levies at once? I keep thinking it was this weird dream I had because we must have really been cocky, thinking that you would want to pay for two levies. How we ever got more than 51% of you to vote for the first levy is beyond me. I don't even know why you did that. But two of them at once? you know, it failed. I like to think that was the moment Jefferson County sobered up a little bit. Sadly, you got drunk again and start voting for the other ones, though. Didn't you turn down school levies? Wasn't like one of the levies for busing students to school? And yet you were voting for our levy? Kind of was strange in a way. The party was nice, though. We had good crab dip that night. You know what happened after you turned this levy down? Me neither. I don't remember any changes to the college, so I don't know how important it was. We used to have people to campaign for these different levies, that people would go out and talk to different groups, and they would tell you all the advantages of voting for these levies. Didn't you people ever ask any questions? I've never been to any of these, but didn't anybody ever stand up and go, how many full-time African-American teachers has the college hired since it's opened? Full-time secretaries? Deans, African-American deans? Don't you have a 5-year plan for the college? Why is your levy for 10 years? How would you even know that you're going to need the money 8 years from now? Okay. What's your policy on nepotism? It's for the children. I gotta go now. I mean, seriously. Ask a few questions when these people come to speak to you. Wait, is it true that you spend tens of thousands of dollars on food for yourselves? Like catering and such? Oh well, better luck next time. It was during this time period that we built one of Jefferson County's great boondoggles. Now, just let me give you my opinion on this to start with. To use taxpayer dollars for aesthetic value things, I'm not totally against it. Look how West Virginia put a lot of money into the Market Street Bridge, painted it, lighted it up. It's beautiful. It's like in all the photographs of the Ohio Valley now, isn't it? And you have a working bridge, and it's an historic bridge. So that one's not too bad. Or how about building a courthouse? Big stone bricks, and carved stone bricks, and it gives it like gravitas, doesn't it? It's like a beautiful thing. That's where your county seat is. You know something important is happening in there. But at a college, do you really pick a community college for something that's, they got a big aesthetic architecture signature piece in the front yard? No, you pick a community college because it's affordable, it's close. Maybe they have something that will transfer to a 4-year school, or to help you get a job, right? Well, we built this thing, we call it we used to call it the computer wing, or the host center. That's an acronym for something. It stands for something. I think at the time, though, you'd been lucky to find 3 people to know what those letters stood for. And, it's not like we gave a suitcase of money to the architect and say, hey, build us something really beautiful here. We saw the plans. We should have knew better. We should have put a stop to it. And of course, this is just my opinion, but, let me try to convince you to get on my side. Okay, it's a 2-story building that only has 4 classrooms in it. And you have to pay tens of thousands of dollars each year just to heat and cool the big empty space in it. And it serves absolutely no purpose. It doesn't even look good. I didn't think so. And on the front of it, it has a 2-story glass wall. And it faces sunset, so the sun beats in and made the place even hotter in the summertime. And then we dropped an office right in front of it on the inside, blocking the view, so you couldn't see in or out very well. And then there was a big blank wall for the longest time. Then we finally painted our logo on it. And then we created a position for this place called, now listen to this, software librarian. And we hired 3 people that worked it at a time, part-time people. And the most amazing thing about the software librarian, we had no software. I mean, the entire time. I don't think we had any software. Might have been one disk for the nurses temporarily who did some math or something on it. But that was like it. It wasn't like we had a big room in back of it. You probably saw it if you came in. And they were supposed to put all their software in there. No software. If you had a program, you could put it on the mainframe and people could access it through an icon, or you went to a website. It's like when you used to go into the computer store and there was that big wall of software originally. It kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller until it was just a tax disk in a Nancy Drew game. Yeah, that's kind of what happened. But we never bothered investing it. But we kept the position for a really long time, many, many years, costing the taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars to cover this position. And if you ever went in there, and I know I got thousands of witnesses, if you ever went in, you saw what they did. They sat there reading a book or talking to their kids on their phone or playing on the computer. One used to like to knit. She must have knitted a lot of scarves during that time. It was so pointless and totally unnecessary. And I'm not saying anything bad about them. I mean, that was the position. I mean, what choice did they have? This building had skylights. I think like 10 or 12 of them. They would leak every time it rained. I had to run over there and get garbage cans and try to catch the water. It would get in the carpet. The carpet was always moldy. It would get into the light fixtures. Flimsy walls, really thin walls. Every time a student got mad, they'd punch a wall and cause another hole, and we'd put up another poster to cover it because we didn't want to pay to fix it. One of the computer labs had no walls. It didn't have a wall in the front. It was an open concept. So, that's a good thing to put 20 computers in a room and have no wall where you can never lock it. And originally, I think the learning skills lab maybe was in there. And every time somebody walked in and was just talking, just walked into the wing, she would shush them. And she ended up being called the shusher. It was actually kind of sad in a way. I bet it was very depressing. There was the room 2000, the business industrial training room. This thing had a whole bunch of electric equipment. I bet it looked good in the brochure. None of it ever worked. You had a button that you pushed that would open up the wall and there'd be a chalkboard, and push another button and it'd be a dry erase board, or a place where you could show a movie and turn on the movie projector. Never worked. It would start to open a little bit. The wall was so heavy and the motor was so small. Finally, we just unplugged it or shut off the breaker to it. The light switches, we didn't have a light switch. Yeah, that's too easy. We had a programmable, where you could put 10 settings in. And if you know anything about the college, the power jumps all the time. So I had to go over constantly and reset it. And it was like really hard and little micro instructions. Fortunately, I knew how to do it. But it was like over in the back of the room. You had to step over all the people in the dark. I did this hundreds of times, had to reset this light. Someone should have been fired for building this thing. We had other parts of the building that were much older that only needed a coat of paint. And since I've been gone from the college, like 2013, I know they've remodeled this place already. I mean, what more proof do you need than you had to remodel a part of the wing that was fairly new compared to the rest of the building? As far as the software librarians, this is the position that my friend who met the unfortunate ending, this is the position that he wanted to apply for. And they told him that he couldn't apply for it because he was a student. Now, he was a security guard. He had keys to every room in the building, and yet he couldn't sit there and read a book while people used the computer lab. These software librarians would get there early in the morning, be there late at night till 10 o'clock. On Friday, Saturday, and Sundays, they had some reduced hours. And there was 3 of them that rotated. And out of those original 3, 2 of them signed up to be students. Why would they let them be students if they're telling a student that he couldn't sign up and apply for this job? It makes no sense. And what kind of message does that send if you're not going to hire your own students? I mean, that's ridiculous. Worse still, the software librarian made more money than the security guard. The security guard had the whole building that they had to secure. These people had basically 3 rooms because 2,000 usually everybody entered from the other side. So 3 rooms in a little common area, and they got more money and they got to sit there and read books. Finally, they stopped hiring the software librarians and they got down to 1. And I convinced a vice president, why don't we move them over to the other library, the one with the books, the real library? For one thing, they have no software. And the person who worked at the other library, they had quit and we were in a hiring freeze. And I said, what kind of accreditation people wouldn't flag this, that you're closing the library at night for students? And once I pointed that out, after like 30 days, he went, wait, I got an idea. Let's move the software librarian to the library. And everybody's like, genius. So I was instrumental in getting rid of the position software librarian. You're welcome, taxpayers. You know what happens if you're the president of a college and all this crazy stuff is going on under you? We put your picture on the wall. Doesn't make any sense. Well, I guess that's enough lows for now. In the third video, we're going to talk about the third president and how the college went to hell under her. Believe me, I have saved the best villains for last. We will talk about the crazy nepotism at this place, the racism, and how, at least in the biblical sense, we ripped you off for millions of dollars. And I'm not even stretching it. So far, we've covered only 15 of my 29 years, and you still haven't heard anything yet. We spent all of your money, we laughed while we did it, and you did nothing to stop us. For now, it's me, Camroy, here on YouTube.